So, all things considered, this was quite the explosive finale for Shadow's House Season 2, and I think there's probably going to be some pushback because it does kind of abruptly stop in a way that you would think there's another episode or they would immediately confirm a Season 3, but I think it does work in an odd way where, yes, there's a post-credit scene, and seemingly based on the giant reveal with the whole Anthony plot twist where there was 2 Master Robes seemingly, I think we definitely have a good idea of, like, their general trajectory of how they want to tear down the Shadow's House, though, obviously, they are at a complete disadvantage in terms of power, as seen by the end of last week's episode. I do think we are going to get a confirmation of its Season 3, it just feels like with the way they went about this season, the fact that back with Season 1, the mangaka worked on that to make sure that they could end it in a way that if they didn't get greenlit for more, then they would be able to end it there and be relatively okay. The fact that they didn't do that here says to me that there's probably, within the near future, they're gonna announce that they're doing more. It just feels likely in my opinion. But say they don't. Say they end it here. As much as it feels like it's a cliffhanger ending, I would argue not as much as some shows. Because yes, it's kind of like in the middle, you know, everyone's pretty much like in new stages of their lives. Emilico's going through these changes of honestly feeling pretty terrified and not really up to par with where she used to be, Little Miss Sunshine. We have the promotion of them being, I think they're Team 10 or something like that, so you had the whole team promotion, hostility among the team because of who thought was going to be promoted. You have the Bellas where, you know, you have 2 shadow faces, but now only 1 living doll who's going through hell and back to be able to be the face of both of them, but not also just basically die of fear, given just what they went through in terms of their punishment. There's tons of, like, we really are stopping in the middle of something. But the thing is, with the whole announcing, like, we're gonna bring it down, just that standoff, it felt like it wasn't really a standoff, but the whole idea with, like, the Barbie-Barbara situation and then Emilico and Kate, it just felt to me like, in a weird way, at the very least, them stopping there and you never see more, unless you obviously go check out the source material. To me, it actually works because it feels like a declaration of war, and I'd much rather see them, you know, in my own mind, be like, okay, I'm glad that they acknowledged, like, this shit needs to go, but I still, like I said, expect we will get more. But this was a pretty fantastic episode for promotions, but most importantly, plot twists. I mean, there was definitely, I was still seeing some humming and hawing last week about Christopher, like, what if he wasn't really dead, and I thought to myself, that maybe could be a plot twist. And I think after this episode, that definitely should be laid to rest, because I think for sure at this point, Christopher 100% killed himself. But the question of what happened to Anthony was a big question as well. Like, what happened to this living doll? That was never mentioned in the stories. And now we see that actually, that he's been hiding all along, and just because he's just a living doll doesn't mean he doesn't have a few tricks up his sleeve. And seemingly based on the end of the episode, with the after the credits, it feels like that is going to be an ally, but not in the way that they're going to be buddy-buddy or they're going to be best friends, but more so the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and if you get in my way, I would have no problem disposing of you sort of a deal. At least that's the kind of the vibe I was getting. It completely sucker punched me because, I mean, just the whole concept of seeing a Master Robe sitting there after the jumping scene. Yes, they established in this episode there is hope, and you could even headcanon that they got away. The whole idea that, you know, the massive amount of soot that they used to launch that attack, ultimately, she wouldn't have enough power left to make a little cushion that she could fall on. Kate, however, could do that. So, the possibility of them getting away and jumping to their seemingly death, it is possible. It absolutely is. However, I don't think that question is something that's going to get answered anytime soon, if ever, in terms of where their fates actually led to. Of course, Emilico and Kate are banking on the idea that they did get away, but there's no guarantee. It's not like you can test that hypothesis or anything like that. They're not going to be jumping out of window and seeing if they could land and survive. However, it's definitely a lot better than if they had nothing, right? And like I mentioned last week, I mean, if your 2 options are jumping to your seemingly death or going with Edward, jumping to your seemingly death is probably the best outcome one could ask for. But ultimately, it's nice that there is that glimmer of hope that maybe they got to just go live out their days happily ever after. It's possible, right? We don't know. And we may never know, but I think that's a better outcome than just simply seeing a splattered body or anything like that. But I love just what they were able to do with how they got around so much. The fact of the matter was, you can't blame the children's wing for everything that happened last week, because ultimately it was transferred over to the adult side when that attack was launched, so they basically were safe. And the fact that they end up getting that promotion I thought was pretty great, because ultimately that's going to breed so much tension and drama from people who already are targeting them like they're not ready to be team leader, they're inexperienced, they're blah blah blah. But most importantly, it propels them to have more signs of promotion on the horizon, and we know what that promotion would do to Emilico. I was having some conversations last week in the comments section about, well, how could they fight them if ultimately we see the power of someone like Edward? And the only logical way I could see them being able to have a final battle is if, yes, Emilico ends up dying. Mainly because, I could see something being written in a way where either A, Kate's just going to be so special that she won't need to do that to power up to that degree, or 2, there might be an arc where we're building up to a self-sacrifice, so the good of the many outweigh the needs of the few. So maybe Emilico would be fine with sacrificing her life if it means Kate could then tear down everything that the Shadow's House stands for. Those are the 2 possibilities in my mind. Kate's naturally skillful and her potential is so great that she very much could be able to deal with the adults without the fusion, or 2, the fusion will willingly happen so that then she would be powerful enough to tear it down. I don't think that's a season 3 or maybe even a season 4 storyline, but I definitely could see those being brought up and theorized. The big thing for me, I think the star of this episode, outside of the obvious Anthony plot twist, was Emilico's resolve. I mean, she gets kicked in the gut, sent into a wall, and she just doesn't back down. She says, my team is not a failure. You're not going to dispose of anyone. This girl is cleaning her room. She's been through hell and back. You're putting so much stress on this girl, bitch, please back the hell off. And I'm like, damn, Emilico. Her balls of steel in this episode really dropped. And just to see how Kate herself is trying to, lessen the burden on Emilico given everything she's dealing with. She's starting to have dreams of most likely her original life before the brainwashing. So she's starting to do her own cleaning, so it will lessen the burden of someone who definitely has the weight of the world on her shoulders, sort of a thing, and is just downright terrified. And that's what I really like about this season. As a big fan of the first season of Shadow's House, I was gushing about it week by week. I was really excited to see where they take season 2, and I imagine it would be just as good, if not better, but it's really interesting to see how season 1 really was that establishing, getting us kind of up to speed with what's going on in the Shadow's House, get us an idea of the characters' personalities. Season 2 is mystery after mystery after mystery, with a lot of answers revealed, but feeling like the world's where before, Shadow's House kind of felt like, yeah, this house is full of mystery, but now the house kind of feels like a mansion full of mystery, and that's where a season 3 and 4 and potentially more could really go. Obviously, I have no idea how many seasons this show will ultimately get. The thing that I feel likely is a bet is that it will get a season 3. I think given the way the manga went about season 1 ending in that way, not sure if they would get more, says to me the direction they went with is they're gambling on them getting greenlit for more. Obviously, only time will tell, of course, but if they make a season 3, I definitely have plans to talk about it in some way, shape, or form, whether that's single episode reviews, double reviews, triple reviews, I don't know. All I know is I want more, and I'm sure I'm not alone saying that in the Shadow's House fandom. But of course, as always, I'll pass the torch over to you. What did you think of the final episode, the season as a whole? Did you agree with my theories and speculations, or do you have your own? Do let me know. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new around here. Until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.